Good morning. This is Professor Anderson with a little bit of feedback for your writing assignment number one, rough draft. So the way I approach feedback and any kind of assessment is I do a basic, like a two-phase review. The first I do is what I call the nuts and bolts. I just scan quickly to make sure that the paper has all the components, and then I go back and do a little more thorough nitty-gritty. So if I do a nuts and bolts of yours, I see section 1, section 2, section 3, all formatted appropriately, and section 4. And then if I go back for a little bit more of the second review, like a nitty-gritty, what I note up here is a pretty good beginning detail of your description of your workplace. What took me a while, and I had to go back several times because I was reading too quickly, move this up to the front. Say I'm currently in the USS Navy, stationed on a ship. You don't have to tell me which one, but the Navy has many different locations. I didn't know whether you were on land or at sea. So that would be significant to make certain that you quickly identify to your audience or your reader the location. You talk about your mass communications, your specialist, and what your job function is, and that you have 20 employees broken into different centers with various specialties around the ship. Give me a better indication also of within an office space on the ship of 1,000 employees in various capacities. So how many people are on the ship in general? And then you have this smaller group of 20. So the purpose of this area, to give this part one, to give a background information, is if you had to paint a picture of your workplace and all of the dynamics within it, what would it look like? Would you only paint those components or those departments that relate to your job function? Well, those are certainly significant, but equally as significant is the whole of the big picture. So, give a description of the whole of the big picture, the area space, the place within which you work, on your ship. The second area you've done great. This you used what we call parallel structure. So you have each of the barriers identified, and then you use the same type of format except for this bottom one. So let me share with you this. Your distance barriers can occur when people in the workplace are separated by distances such as floors, office buildings, or even countries. Environmental barriers may happen when the environment that work needs to be conducted is not optimal. Be a little careful with that. Ignorance of medium is caused when employees do not understand certain types of specific work, certain aspects of a specific type of work or signal. And then motivational barriers. This can occur. Do you see how these all start with a verb and you're giving an example, and then this one you start with a sentence? In parallel, you have it as a complete sentence. Parallel structure is where you have items of like nature, so things in a series. They need to be the same. So I wouldn't say like I am jogging, or today I plan to jog, um, garden, and taking a nap with my dog. So I have present tense, and then future perfect. So I want to make sure that I have the same type of the elements are synonymous in the series. So that's called parallel structure. You just want to fix that last one there to be the same. All right, so then if I look in your incidents, I understand what you've done here, and I think this is a pretty clever way to approach it. Here are some suggestions. So in this one, you're talking about one specific element, and you have noticed 3 separate barriers inside of there, and then justified them. So there's a couple of things that I would recommend. First of all, because you're outlining 3 different areas of this one incident, give it a general topic here, and then underneath, separate each one of these in their own row, and sort of dissect the elements that make it that stand out to create each one of these inhibitors as different, or as having a role in the overall communication barrier. Or so that could be one solution. Or describe the situation and then just select one inhibitor, because breaking this down, you're compartmentalizing a little too much. You're not showing the flow, connectedness between them, and or the individual element of the communication barrier. So pick one, either give a broad picture of the situation itself, and then say, this came into effect here, this came into effect here. That way you'll be able to justify a little more completely, because that's what this justification or analysis phase is for. So my boss instructed us to complete a Mother's Day shout out video for Facebook. Inhibitor motivational barrier. I would not, if I'm just reading this across, I would not initially say that would be something that would have a lack of motivation, because everybody wants to say, Happy Mother's Day on that day. Your justification, they rarely provide any motivation to complete assignments of this type. So I'm not sure what motivation are you talking about? So I hope that helps to describe or define why these seem a little disjointed. I understand that each one of these inhibitors plays a role in the overall completion of this task or execution of that task. But you either want to pick one or give the whole big picture and say, these three things are in play here. This one is in play because of this. This one is in play because of that. So the same for this, for the second section that you give. And then finally, your workplace evaluation, I think, is really just spot on. You want to take a look at that parallel, using proper parallelism also in that area. But I think you're really into a great start here with this final evaluation. And I look forward to reading your final paper.